Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And today we're diving into a remarkable untold chapter of Holocaust history with author Julie Brill. Her latest book, Hidden in Plain Sight, uncovers the incredible story of her father's survival as a Jewish boy in Nazi-occupied Belgrade, where 90% of the Jewish population was murdered without gas chambers or cattle cars. Julie's journey to piece together her family's lost history took her through deep research, emotional discoveries, and 3 trips to Serbia. Today, she's here to share that journey with us. Julie, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Thank you so much, Dave. I'm so happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. So, Julie, this book's so personal. What inspired you to start digging into your father's past?
Yeah. So in one sense, I feel like I've been writing this book since I was 3 years old. I mean, my father was telling me his childhood stories when I was a little kid, and I was listening so hard and asking questions and trying to get all the details and just having the sense that it was really important. And then really started the book in 2017 when my kids were grown and I had this empty nest and the time and the space to do the research and to travel.
That was lucky for you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you feel the urge to go before it while you had the kids when it wasn't an empty nest?
I mean, I always wanted to go to Serbia. Serbia felt a little bit like Oz, honestly. From outside of Boston, it just felt so far away, and there was, of course, the Cold War, and there were the Balkan Wars, and I don't speak Serbian, and time and money, and there were all these barriers to going. But I always wanted to go and was always trying to imagine what life was like there.
Yeah. So give us more of a background as to what inspired you to start digging into your father's past in that way. I mean, obviously, there must have been stuff in your childhood that really was telling you, got to go and find out.
Definitely. So I had these stories from my father, and it really felt like they were his childhood stories. So it was like one kid talking to another. My father as a little boy talking to me as a little girl. I could hear these stories. They were so vivid. I could just imagine, he has got a story about his mother told him not to look out the window at the German soldiers that were patrolling his Jewish neighborhood. And he did it anyway. He would lift the curtain and stand on tiptoes. And I could just imagine doing that, So They were very vivid. I knew them like they were my own stories. And they didn't fit into what I was learning about the Holocaust. So, of course, we learned about Anne Frank, and Germany and the slow progression to genocide that happened in Germany and what happened in Poland. And what happened in Serbia was very different. And so I could never understand, okay, it was the Holocaust, it wasn't, what happened? And that's really my motivation. In 2015, I was at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, which is this huge Holocaust museum in Washington, D.C. on the Mall with all the other Smithsonian National Museums. And I went to the bookstore and I went to why I'm looking for books for Yugoslavia, and there was nothing. And so that was really the moment where I was like, oh, I have to write this book because the book doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, that's quite interesting. I didn't really know much. Sorry, excuse me. I should have put it on mute there. Sorry to my audience as well. I mean, I knew about Yugoslavia and the split. Obviously it split to Croatia and Serbia and everything else. And when they had that war, then with is it Yeltsin or whatever? I can't remember anyway. Yeah. So
all the 90s.
Boris. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Boris. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm 60, so I remembered all that. And the little ethnic cleansing that was doing there and stuff like that as well, wasn't it? Or something, I can't remember now. But
horrible. What happened in Bosnia?
So it's quite interesting because obviously with the the Jewish Holocaust stuff, it's kind of like almost history repeating itself there, wasn't it? Really?
Yes. And I think a lot of why in Serbia they don't want to talk about what happened in the 40s with the Germans and the Serbian collaboration is because of what happened in Bosnia with the genocide that they were perpetrating. So it's very complicated and very layered.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Yugoslavia quite well as it was as Yugoslavia when I was growing up because I did athletics actually. So, we always just when I was 17 as a very talented track and field athlete, I just heard about the Eastern Bloc and how great
Yes, exactly.
and in Yugoslavia is more a gymnastics country, really. I can't remember if there was a very famous one called Nadia Komodic or whatever. I can't remember. I think she's from Romania or something like that. Anyway, I'm drifting off a bit here, but so I just remember Yugoslavia that well, to say.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a place that you could see on a map but couldn't get to.
Yeah. Well, even as a country, I just thought, and then obviously with the stuff that was going on with Bosnia and it, and of course they've got a very famous tennis player from Serbia now, haven't they?
Yes. Serbia's known for tennis and basketball.
And basketball. Well, yeah, basketball is good in a few of them, like Lithuania and places like that is their national sport. But so to get back with what we're talking about, history repeating itself there. So really, so that was going on in your childhood to really inspire you and pushed you forward. What were some of the biggest surprises or most emotional moments along the way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the big surprises was that even though I couldn't fit my dad's story into the history that I understood about the Holocaust, as I learned more, everything fit. Everything that he remembered, and he was, 2, 3, 4 years old. He was very young. Everything he remembered was accurate. It was just a matter of looking at the larger record and figuring out what was he talking about,
Yeah.
So he remembers the bombing in April 1941.
Wow.
Hitler bombed Belgrade, and it was a surprise bombing. There was no declaration of war. Hitler was mad because the Yugoslavs wouldn't follow a pact that he had made. They didn't want to go along with Germany. And my father remembers that. So he's not quite 3, and he remembers running with his mother through the streets to the bomb shelter and the sound the bombs made, this whistling sound. Yeah. And so it was like, okay, when was that? How does that fit into, the history that we learn, in school, or what's the document? So that was really fascinating. Yeah. And I always had this idea like, oh, history is over. You can learn about it. What we know is what we know. And no, there's new documents coming out all the time. So I was able to discover more things about my family through my research than we ever knew. I learned exactly what happened to my grandfather, which we had never known. My grandmother died without knowing what happened to her husband. That is in the historical record now. You can look it up.
Oh, right. Okay.
We found family members we didn't know existed. So it's really just.
Well, you mean like that you met and greeted?
Yeah. That we met, that are real in the flesh. We thought everybody had died. We didn't know. My father's grandfather had a number of siblings, and we didn't know there were any descendants from any of them. And there are alive and well, and they didn't know about us. So,
but I mean, I think Yugoslavia was a communist country after the war, anyway, wasn't it?
Yes.
So that's the other problem that I don't know if you like communism, but the Soviet communism was obviously a more severe one because it was like an iron curtain. So it was like, you wouldn't meet your family if you're in the Western world, and you get separated, don't you? So
exactly.
Even more so, it wasn't. It wouldn't have been just the Second World War separating your family, would it? Really?
There were lots of barriers, and translating documents, and the language barrier. There were just so many things to overcome, and that's what I write about in the book. It's this journey to understand, well, what is the family story, and what is the larger story of the Jews of Serbia, because that story hadn't been told.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how widespread, because obviously even myself, I just think, World War II, Hitler, obviously gassed the Jews and that was a main thing about his racism, was towards the Jews more than, obviously racism was more widespread than that, but that was his main focus, was the Jewish people. And you just think Germany, but actually it's a big diaspora, isn't it, of Jewish people around the world?
Yes. So, and what happened in Eastern Europe was different. So what happened in Yugoslavia, the Germans come in 1941, they split Yugoslavia. Now Serbia is its own separate country run by the Germans. And it's all happening.
Is it run now by the Germans, is it?
No, in 1941, they come in.
Yeah.
They're like, no more, Yugoslavia doesn't exist. Each of these individual parts will be their own thing.
Yeah.
Serbia is run by the Germans, and it's all happening very fast. So, like,
Yeah.
my grandfather was murdered, we know now, in 1941 in November. The US hadn't even entered the war. I mean, we come
No.
in December with Pearl Harbor, right? So
Yeah.
it
Well,
was
that's
almost
why
all
they.
over, right? In Serbia before the war even really got started. So, spring of 1942, they're just saying that Belgrade, where my family was, is Judenfrei, is free of Jews. Like Auschwitz hasn't even gotten going yet. So it was
Yeah.
very early and very different and very local. They didn't move them anywhere. It happened right where they lived.
Yeah.
Different story.
Yeah. I kind of say that Auschwitz had their 80th anniversary, didn't they? This year? So
Yes, yes, the
that's
liberation of Auschwitz last
quite
month.
amazing. Yeah. Well, so the biggest surprises you would say, or most emotional moments, what would you say?
So, biggest surprise is learning how my father survived the war, which I won't say exactly because it's a spoiler. But
Oh,
if
okay.
you're able to see the cover of the book, it's two
Uh,
little children, my father
right.
and my aunt, standing on the street. We think it's
Ah.
1943.
Oh, right. There's a picture
Two
of you as a child.
It's my aunt, my
Oh, your
aunt.
aunt.
So
Sorry, your
19,
aunt.
I'm
Okay.
old, but I'm not that old.
No, yeah, I was going to
I'm
say, yeah.
54.
I'm 60, so yeah, that's
Yeah,
why I
yeah.
was
This is
thinking.
before we were born. But
Well,
our
I
stories
mean,
start.
it's before I was born as well.
Yes,
Don't
yes,
get me
yes.
wrong.
So two
I
little
put my
children.
foot in my mouth there, didn't
No, no, it's okay.
I? Sorry
This
about
process has aged me.
that.
My aunt and my father, they're like a year and a half and 5.5, and they're standing on the street. It's spring of 1943, and it's this picture that we had always. I had it as a kid, and I would look at this picture, and I would understand that, my father should not have survived, and I would understand that he wasn't hiding. He was standing on the street, and I would try to figure out how that was possible. Like Hitler already said, there are no Jews in Belgrade, and here's my father with his sister standing on the street in a photograph. So that's the title of the book, Hidden in Plain Sight, which is how they survived. And just this miracle that we have this picture. You weren't allowed to take pictures on the street in occupied Europe because you might give away a military secret. It was illegal. My grandmother somehow got this picture. Probably she wanted it for her husband. It survived, and it's showing this miracle that these children are just alive and posing for a picture.
Yeah.
So that understanding how that was possible was one of the miracles. Going to Serbia and understanding how we really were Serbian, even though it wasn't a place I had ever been before, and how, certain things that we do and certain things that we eat come from
Yeah.
here. And just the warm welcome that we got in Serbia from family, but from everyone, like, oh, welcome back, was really amazing.
That's fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm of Caribbean background and also Mauritius, which has got a different history to it. But so there is a lot of history in that way. And going back to see my family because I was born in Britain, it's a similar kind of thing where you meet family you've never met before, and
Exactly.
different kind of. It's more of a colonial history, so
Right.
it wasn't a war torn like how yours is. It's a different kind of historical diaspora, but we still kind of keep the proudness and
Yeah,
your
similarities.
first.
You're from a place you haven't been to. You fit into this place you didn't know.
Yeah, but
it's amazing.
the only thing is that they do just like they say African American history, in America, in the UK, Caribbean history and Caribbean community is a big thing here. It's
Right.
part of Britain, really. So
Yeah.
anyway, so let's move on a bit. So as I mentioned, not a lot of people know, or a lot of people don't know what happened to Jews in Belgrade during the Holocaust. So what's the most important part of this history you want people to understand?
Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned Auschwitz, and Auschwitz was a terrible place. Over 1 million Jews were murdered there. The death camps, terrible. The work camps, terrible. But there were work camps. So there were tens of thousands of survivors, mostly Jews in their teens and 20s, who went on. Many of them lived long lives and told their stories. And so those stories were known. The paradox is with Auschwitz that because there were so many survivors, we know that story, even though 1 million people were murdered, more than 1 million. In Serbia, there were so few survivors and so few descendants. No one could tell the story. So 90% of the Jews were murdered there by the spring of 1941 without cattle cars. It happened right in the city without gas chambers. It's a very different story, but it's actually more representational of the stories of what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust. More Jews were murdered outside the camps than in them. And that's the story of Eastern Europe, which is where my family is from.
Yeah,
So
wow.
just very sad and
more
different.
murdered outside the camps. I wonder why that was. Obviously, the big part of what people generally hear, as I've mentioned earlier, is the gas chambers in the World War
Right.
II and get Jews being gassed. That's the main thing you hear. You don't hear about. But of course, I mean, there was a big exodus of Jewish people before this, historically, wasn't there? In years and years or whatever, decades before this, the exodus of the Jewish people.
People moving around.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
moving around. I think the reason you hear about Auschwitz and the other death camps was it was so horrifying that they could operate on that scale. And just the existence of the gas chambers, which had never been before, as opposed to what was happening in Eastern Europe, where, all the Jews in a town would be murdered, and they would be murdered in the forest outside where they lived. And that was it. You never heard about it again. There was no one to tell.
Yeah. Well, through your research and travels, how has uncovering your family's past changed the way you see your own identity? I know we've been going on about that, as I've mentioned about going to the Caribbean. So
yeah,
it's your interview. All my audience know me or should know me.
I wanted to ask more about your family. I haven't wanted to research their family history. It's
well,
so
we can exchange notes. But...
Later, I'll interview you.
All right.
No, it changed me because I understood I was from a place, So I'm from New England. I live outside of Boston here in the U.S. There's an expression
Connecticut.
in
there's next to
Massachusetts. Close by. We're all neighbors.
Yeah.
Our neighbor to the north, Vermont. There's a saying in Vermont: you're not really from Vermont unless you have 4 grandparents in the ground. That's the definition of a Vermonter. And by that definition, I'm not from anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But we went to Belgrade, and my father is from Belgrade. That's where his grandparents are buried. And we went to the cemetery, and we stood in front of the stones. And I just understood, we are from here.
Yeah.
At one point, we were with a guide in the city, and the car broke down. It broke down a couple of times, but it broke down, and my dad, who was 80 something, was like, okay, enough of this. We're getting out of the car. And we got out of the car, and he just started walking towards the hotel. And it wasn't the way we had come from it. We had been on this really circuitous route. He knew exactly where he was. He's got this map of the old city in his brain from when he was 9 years old. And I was like, oh, this is his hometown, right? We are Serbian. We are from here.
Yeah.
And that was really powerful.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's probably more powerful because of the way things happened there, whereas that wasn't as much a severity apart from slavery days. Obviously you probably heard a lot about that because that's a big thing even in America, Southern America.
Yeah, we do learn that history.
Yeah.
Tragic, terrible.
Oh, you do? Yeah. So obviously me going to the Caribbean and going to the town of where my mum was born, I went there with my aunt, and then obviously you see the history and the plantations and everything. You think, oh, I can see what's going on here. And, the only thing we didn't do was look at the actual slave trade part where the boats where they went. The ports are in the UK where they were, and London's one of them, and then Liverpool and Bristol, I think. But there was a triangle between New York and Africa and here and here.
Yeah,
in
the
UK.
triangle trade.
But just my first time going up to Dixon, where where my mum grew up, and then you could see it, and say, yeah, this is. I could see what was going on,
but it makes things make sense. Kamala Harris said, did you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You come from a past, you come from people and things that happened before you were born.
Yeah. It's amazing you mentioned Kamala Harris because in Mauritius, it's like half Indian, really, of this diaspora. So my dad's family really came from the indentured labor, which came after slavery, because it was like, oh, we've got to have another form of labor. Right. Not the free labor where it's a cruel kind of way system, isn't it, really? So, and then it's Indian and Chinese people obviously moving around the world more for business or for another way of, and so that's the island of Mauritius is actually in the Indian Ocean, so it's just 4 hours away from South Africa. But Kamala Harris has that similar kind of mix of thing. It's quite interesting. We don't want to really go along the lines of US politics at the moment. I'll leave that for her to come on.
That's a different interview. I have my ideas,
I'll wait
let's
for
not
her
go there.
I'll wait for her to come on my show and we'll talk about all that there. I mean, obviously we've kind of gone back to identity again, but of course, through uncovering your family's past, that's how you see your identity, is it? I mean, you answer the question as to how has uncovering your family's past changed the way you see your identity? That's how you see it, is it? With like, as you went there,
just really understanding, we're Serbian, we are from here. I always felt like, we talked about how Jews moved around a lot historically, like, we're not from anywhere, we're just Jewish, and that's not a place. And now I understand, I'm Serbian. This is why we make palatchinki, we make these pancakes on Sunday morning. This is a Serbian thing. And when we got to the hotel, right across the street from the hotel, there's a Serbian palatchinki stand, like, a whole country of people who do this too. That feeling of belonging is really important.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's quite interesting, really, because there was a program called Roots as well when I was growing up. Oh, you know about that?
I watched that. Yeah.
Oh, you watched it? Oh, wow.
As a kid. I mean, was it on in the 80s? It's old, right?
That's right. Well, was it 8? I thought it was late
70s.
Late 70s.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even go as far back as looking at. Well, actually, I've been to the Caribbean, seen the plantations, but I didn't go far as back as we're in Africa.
Right.
Where's Kinta Kunte from? Do you see what I mean? Because that's or even my dad's side, the Indian side. It's from South India somewhere, but I've got family there. Really,
right.
You see what I mean? I've been to India, but I didn't go looking. Whereas Camilla Harris has actually, she knows. Well, I don't think she's gone through via the African route, as in gone to Africa, but she knows her Indian route. She's been there. She knows because she's directly from India. Her mother,
I mean, that very human desire to, like, where do we come from? Who are we?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about identity here because when I was studying my politics degree, one of the things was with Jewish people, they got split up through the exodus of Babylon, and it's like, that's all I know, It's like, how are you going to find your original roots, really? Like we're talking about the program roots. Right. If you really wanted to research that far back, you see what I mean? So just like I really say, look, my family's from the Caribbean or Mauritius, just like you would say Belgrade now.
Yes.
But you are American, like I'm British. You see what I mean?
Definitely.
100%.
Like that.
It's
but
like that, really.
Like most Americans, I come from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And in America, they do actually go by the title of, like they, you add that, American Chinese or American Korean.
Yes.
They really add the little
with the hyphens.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, I've only been to New York many times because I've got family from the Caribbean there. That some were born there, like me being born in the UK, so they're actually American, just like you. You're born in the US. I'll take it. Yes. You're born in the US.
Yes, anyway. In Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly. So our family that's born in the US who are actually from the Caribbean. So. And they travel back to the Caribbean sometimes as well, So it's amazing, isn't it, really, in terms of
all
identity,
those migratory routes. And there's just going to be more and more of that in the future, people moving around.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just thought I'd touch on the identity bit. So, we did swap notes now in the end, didn't we, really?
Yeah.
I could go on forever about mine. But I was just going about the Jewish part because it's harder for you because all this stuff going on in the Middle East now, I mean, the thing is, you can't really, actually, Israel has only been there since 1948, and it was like it was there because it's like, where else are Jewish people going to settle? Do you see what I mean? I mean, obviously, there is a big diaspora, but you've got to have a place where you live. I don't want to get in trouble with anyone or anything.
I mean, it's all very loaded, but after the war, the part we're talking about, I mean, that. Not immediately after, because of course there's several years, as you said, it's 1948 when Israel is able to start welcoming Jews. Before that, it was controlled by the British, and there were very strict limits. For a lot of Jews who'd survived the Holocaust, it was the only place they could go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's amazing. It's amazing. Well, it's quite an amazing book you've written. So what do you hope readers take away from Hidden in Plain Sight?
Yeah. So, you can read the book on a lot of levels. On one level, it's just me, an American woman in middle age, like, who am I? Where did I come from? I think a lot of people have those questions. So, if you know your family history, you've thought about researching your family history, it's a little bit of a how-to, and maybe a little bit of an inspiration,
you
to do
give
that.
a how-to to do it.
Everyone's is different. This is how I did it. And, I got a lot of information, and of course it's ongoing. I might tomorrow get more information. I hope I do. So on one hand, it's like anyone who's ever wondered about their family history or family secrets, here's a book. That's the broad. And then the specific is there's no family like my family. I mean, every family is weird and wonderful in their own way. This is a story about my weird and wonderful family and what I learned about them, and traveling with my dad and my grown daughters to Serbia and what that was like. So, typically in a family, parent to child, you get the story of what happened before you. For me, with my research, I was able to go child to parent. I gave my father these stories that he had not just lost. The Nazis stole it from him. He should have known this family history to pass to me. And instead, I researched it and passed it to him. And that was really, emotional and meaningful for both of us. I talk about it a lot in the book.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we did cover the emotional bit, so we could we won't go back to that question, but that's some of the biggest, most emotional thing as well, isn't it? Moments, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it's really great. I've lost what I'm going to say now, really. Yeah, no, I mean, earlier I asked you what were some of the biggest surprises and most emotional moments, and you're saying that what you just mentioned now about your father.
Yes. I mean, my father, who, he grew up without his father. He grew up in the chaos of the war, and then after the war with communism coming in, and he didn't, get to hear this family history that now he knows. And he talks about it like, oh yeah, my grandfather was a twin. Like, he didn't know that. Like, I found that out. Now he owns it. Oh yeah, we have this cousin Vicky. She lives in Croatia. We didn't know that. Like, that kind of thing has just been really meaningful.
Oh, it just kind of all dropped out at the time when you're doing your research, you mean? Right.
There's a lot of information out there, like you look up your family in Mauritius and the Caribbean. And
well, actually, I've been to Mauritius as well, and then I kind of didn't know a lot of stuff and found out as well, actually. Well, your dad did this and your dad, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was in the military, which was part of the British military at the time, because they didn't decolonize by then. It was a year after he was in the military just after World War II finished, and then he was training the recruits after that. He was actually a sergeant training the recruits, and I didn't know nothing about that at all until my uncle, when I went out to Mauritius, said, your father did this and he was that.
And there might be military records. I mean, I don't know what.
Well, that's it, exactly. That sort of stuff.
Look up and see the paperwork.
So I did learn a few things about family, more closer to home, about family and your own dad and things like that. It's amazing. Well, it's fantastic. Well, Julie, it's been an incredible conversation with you. So where can people find your book and follow your work?
Oh, thank you for asking. So I have a website. It's just my name, juliebrill.com. And it's all linked there, but it's in all the places. So Amazon, I love local bookstores, ask your library to get it. I mean, it's widely available. It'll be out April 23rd, Hidden in Plain Sight, a family memoir and the story of the Holocaust in Serbia. But you can pre-order it now.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, sorry, I dried up a few times in this conversation today, but I tried to make it more about you. That's why. So I didn't really. I found myself talking about myself a lot.
I think it's fascinating. I mean, the similarities, like
that's what I was trying to swap notes like that.
People come from very different places, and yet we have the same, kind of thing, experiences figuring things out.
Well, I mean, there is a lot, even though there's a lot of Jewish people in the UK, there's a big Jewish communities around, and, Caribbean community kind of respects that here, most of them most of them are a member of the Labour Party, which is like the Democrat Party, and, some of I think the Leader once, he's had Jewish background, and they kind of share the same kind of thing, because there's a lot of discrimination still. There was a lot of discrimination when I was growing up in school about Jewish people and us. You see what I mean? And and that's kind of thing. So
a lot of similarities.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't want to go down that road or anything. We're talking about your book, so they can find it in Amazon, Barnes and Nobles as well. I'd imagine. Yeah, and this is not going to come out until April 23rd. You're going to have a book signing as well.
I will. Yep, it'll be in Boston, Porter Square Books in Cambridge.
Yeah,
book launch, book signing. Yes,
wow.
There'll be lots of virtual events. If you go to my website, juliebrill.com, you can already see I've linked to some of the virtual events. So no matter where you are, you can hear more about the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I didn't have to have my, she'll be 10 in actually April, May. Yeah, she's nearly 10 actually, but I think she's still being school time, so I can't hop on a plane and go out there.
Yeah, well, that would be fun. You've been to New York, but you haven't been to Boston.
I know, I haven't.
Better than New York.
Yeah, I know. New England is supposed to be very much more similar to England, which is why they say New England, So.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, well, Julie, it's really, as I say, it's really been an incredible conversation, and thanks a lot for coming to speak to my audience today.
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me. I really enjoyed it.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. Or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.